Okay, so let's dive right in. What we're looking at today isn't just some spooky story. It's a real, sealed document. Case file H94-11. This is the official record of a family that pulled into a Long Island rest stop and, well, they just vanished. They ceased to exist, leaving behind a scene that completely defied physics, forensics, and any kind of logical explanation.
And it all kicks off with this single, unsettling feeling. You know, the first person to see anything, a truck driver named Ronald Beck, he couldn't point to a crime or a struggle. He just had this gut feeling that what he was looking at was fundamentally wrong. And as you're about to see, he was absolutely right.
So let's set the scene here. We're on an isolated stretch of the North Shore Highway in Long Island. It's a cold November night back in 1994. And what starts out as a pretty standard missing persons call is about to spiral into one of the most baffling cold cases you'll ever hear about. These are the people at the very heart of this mystery, the Jensen family. You've got Mark, a contractor, his wife, Elaine, a school librarian, and their 10-year-old daughter, Lucy. Just a normal family, heading home from a trip. These cold, hard facts from the file, they're the last official record we have that these people even existed.
And get this, the timeline here is incredibly tight. We're talking less than an hour. In that tiny window, the Jensens go from making a payphone call that just cuts off to their car being found completely abandoned under a flickering light. Every single minute here is just buzzing with tension.
So Officer Conroy arrives, and the scene is it's a total contradiction. On the one hand, it almost looks peaceful. You know, wallets, IDs, keys, even a little kid's stuffed animal are all just sitting there. No sign of a robbery, no sign of an abduction. But then you have these small, deeply weird details. The driver's side door is just hanging open. And the hazard lights, they're blinking out of sync with each other. I mean, that's not supposed to be possible.
As investigators started really processing the scene, that feeling of wrongness the trucker talked about, well, it started to show up in the physical evidence. The initial strangeness was about to become a full-blown scientific impossibility.
And here's the first major red flag. They find 3 sets of footprints, 2 adult, 1 child. And they're all barefoot in the freezing cold mud, leading away from the car. They weren't running, the stride was calm. But then, 20 feet into the woods, they just stop. Not a scuff mark, not a disturbed leaf, nothing. It's like they were just plucked right off the ground.
This is where things get even weirder, because technology itself just started failing at the scene. According to the case file, every single roll of film the investigators used came back from the lab totally blank. The only image they managed to capture was this one, from an old Polaroid, a distorted, blurry photo of 3 figures the file describes as elongated, just standing there at the edge of the light.
And then there's the car. This is a straight-up paradox. Mechanics confirmed it. The car's battery was stone dead. Couldn't power the lights, couldn't turn the engine over. And yet, somehow, the radio was still playing. And not just playing, it was playing an old Glenn Miller song backwards. It makes absolutely no sense.
So, with the scene itself just a giant mess of questions, the investigation had to move to the forensics lab. And the evidence they managed to pull from that station wagon, it only took this mystery to a much darker and way more personal place.
The lab results were just chilling. So, alongside the family's prints, they found 1 partial print that was physically stretched 2 centimeters longer than any normal human hand. They found fabric fibers that were part wool and part something else, something totally unidentifiable that bent light in a way no known material is supposed to.
And then there was the cassette tape from the car stereo. Buried under all this static and old emergency broadcast signals, the analysts managed to isolate the last 17 seconds. And on it, there was a clear, whispered male voice with this simple, terrifying invitation.
But it gets worse. Of course it does. When they ran a spectral analysis on that whisper, they found something else hidden underneath it. A second voice. A child's voice, saying the exact same words in perfect time, but it was pitched at a frequency lower than a human kid should even be able to make.
Okay, so modern forensics is getting them nowhere,
right? They've hit a brick wall. So the lead detective, a guy named Raymond Carter, he does something pretty brilliant. He starts looking backwards, digging into the history of the land itself. He had a hunch that whatever got the Jensens hadn't just shown up that night.
And what he finds is a pattern. Turns out, decades before it was a rest stop, this land was home to an inn called the Lantern House, an inn with a really dark reputation. Multiple guests had vanished, always from the same room, over a decade. It all ended when an entire family disappeared in 1949, which is what finally got the place shut down for good.
Detective Carter actually tracked down a local historian who gave him this piece of local folklore, this warning that had been passed down for generations. A flickering light where there shouldn't be one. Now, it sounds like a ghost story, right? Until Carter remembers the trucker's report of a flickering lamppost and those out-of-sync hazard lights on the car.
So now, armed with this history, this folklore, the investigators decided they had to confront whatever was out there head on. They went back to the exact spot at the exact time the trucker had first seen the Jensens' car to see if the ground itself would remember. And what they experienced was just terrifying. For exactly 14 seconds, all of their equipment, cameras, radios, it all just cut to static. During that blackout, seasoned officers reported hearing voices call their own names from the trees. Their scientific gear picked up a massive electromagnetic spike. And then, a single, fresh, wet, barefoot print appeared out of thin air on the hood of their patrol car.
Well, that prompted one final major search, this time with a helicopter using thermal imaging, and the cameras picked something up. Not normal human heat signatures. They saw 3 shapes, again described as elongated, with these weird, cold gaps where their joints should have been. Before the ground team could even get close, they just vanished from the screen, instantly.
And okay, if you thought it couldn't get any weirder, just listen to this. Deep in the woods, the search team found 3 suitcases, but not the ones from the car. Those were still packed in the trunk. These were perfect duplicates. And inside, the clothes were perfectly clean, and each one contained the same simple handwritten note, "We came to see." But the truly mind-blowing discovery, the thing that just breaks all the rules, came from the lab. DNA analysis confirmed that the skin cells from the footprints and those duplicate suitcases did belong to the Jensen family, but the lab reported the cells were degraded to a state that suggested they were 20 years old. The evidence was only days old, but the DNA looked like it had been sitting there since the 1970s.
I mean, after that, where do you even go? The investigation had nowhere left to turn. The case officially went cold. They even demolished the rest stop. But as the file clearly shows, tearing down a building doesn't get rid of what lives in the land underneath it.
And the story isn't over. For over 2 decades now, dispatch has been getting calls reporting the exact same things: a flickering light in the woods, a woman's voice asking for help, even sightings of that old station wagon with its hazard lights blinking out of sync. And every single time, responding officers find absolutely nothing, except for fresh, wet footprints on the asphalt.
And that brings us to the final chilling note that Detective Carter left in the file, which I'll leave with you. It's not just a piece of folklore anymore. It's a warning, forged from a completely impossible investigation. So, the question remains, if you saw that light, what would you do?